So I've had this gun for quite a while, and it's been out to a lot of Nerf wars, and it's definitely been a project that I've had before I even started recording the Nerf war videos I now make. Now, this is my old friend, the Frankenshot. This is probably the most ambitious project that I've come up with, and still to this point is, followed by a few others, and one which I've left on the back burner for quite some time now. Now, I decided it's probably due time I finally make a video on the Frankenshot, and really my thoughts on using it in Nerf wars, and overall just how much I like it. Now, the Frankenshot is definitely a heavy weapon. It's not light. It probably weighs in about 5 to 7 pounds, which in a Nerf setting is a lot heavier than most guns you'd run around with. Now, obviously, this is not a single gun setup. This is 2 Nerf guns built into one that operate. However, the entire shell is made of 5 different Nerf guns, being the Longshot as its primary, Firefly as a stock. It has the Maverick in the front, and then you have pieces from the Firefly for this pump grip. You have parts from the Buzzbee double shot, and also parts from the Recon to fill in gaps to make this look clean and complete. Now, taking a closer look at Frankenstein's Longshot, the pump grip being built up with the Firefly shell piece, it looks as if it probably wouldn't prime right, but considering how it's been cut, it has a slot to easily maneuver past the magazines. Now, this only works with a stick mag. You can't have a drum. A drum will not fit. It will not operate correctly, considering the clearance is just a little more than what I need. There's nothing bigger than a single stacked stick mag that would be able to work on the Frankenshot. The scope itself is epoxy puttied on the back and the front. It uses part of a Recon iron sight to kind of close up the back of it to make it look a little more clean, and it does a beautiful job of fitting in very, very nicely. There's epoxy putty filling in these double shot foregrip pieces to make the body feel a little more solid. This is from the Recon Magwell, and this would also be somewhere on the Recon shell. I don't remember at the moment. Pretty basic on this side. The only other thing to note on the shell would be this side mount tack rail, which was in fact the tack rail from the top of the Longshot, which I moved and drilled and then also bolted to the body. So this isn't glued, this isn't epoxy putty, this is actually drilled on so it can be removed at any time. Now, the overall paint job for this thing is going to be my primary paint job for most of my personal weapons in the coming future. It started out with a flat black for the base coat, and over top of that I sprayed on a gloss black on the back half of it to kind of give it this interesting look. It is a semi-gloss white, and I can't remember what the green is. The gold is also spray paint, which, if you realize all these little details, that means that I had to mask off all the rest of the paint, and I did the gold last, so I masked off all the rest of this, and then I spray painted that gold. That means a lot of tape. A lot of tape. Anyway, I'm never doing that again. I'm doing it differently next time. Now, as a primary in the Nerf Wars, this thing is awesome when I do it right. It's something that is reliable. It shoots most types of standard ammo. However, elite darts themselves, I haven't had a single long shot that will reliably work with elite darts. Air restrictors removed, it still doesn't work. It has an upgraded spring. The only one I have that does work is Big Blue, which now has a 26 kilogram spring plus the original Longshot spring. And, well, that thing's a monster. It puts out so much air power that it's gotta work. Now, what I did to the Longshot internally is it has 2 springs. It's not like it's just a straight up upgrade spring for Orange Mod Works, like K26 or anything like that. I'm honestly not trying to spend that kind of money on it, even though I have spent so much money in filling in all the gaps between all the different parts of the body. This is obviously not a cheap build. Now, it has the original Longshot spring doubled up with a recon spring from one of the many recons that I've torn apart for its spring in the purpose that I can work long shots. There is Teflon tape behind the O-ring, which makes it a better seal. I have the air port on the Longshot's chamber also clogged up, used epoxy glue, which did the job just fine, sanded over, and it's good. And then other than that, internally, it's pretty much all the rest of the stuff is there. Some locks have been removed. I did keep, however, the forward lock, so that way when it's already primed, you can't pull the bolt back. Other than that, there's no other locks left in the gun. Its size does create a bit of issues. It's not the most maneuverable weapon, which means that it's not usually easiest to go around corners. I find myself up close with it, or in some interesting swap around situations. If you're going to go for a left side shot, you have to hold with your right hand. If you're going to go for a right side shot, it's better to go with a left. While you can use your body, torsionally twist your entire body in order to make it work, it's kind of problematic. But all the same, its power does make up for a lot, and the fact that it has a Maverick to give it a second firing function, it's easier to pop it around a corner and get lucky every once in a while. These kind of guns with the standard ammo do not shoot very accurately to begin with. However, this does shoot at a decent range. Now, it only shoots about like 50-foot flat shots, 50 to 60, somewhere around there. But for indoor wars, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to kill me because I'm not playing in an open field. And even then, I mean, it could contend. It's not like it's going to be awful. But I can say HVZ, it's not a weapon to use. Its weight and its overall size, how far back the stock goes, makes it a little hard to run around with. And you're going to drag your team, your squad down and get them infected using this kind of setup unless you are really good at running. Another problem that I have with the way put on the stock is it's a little far back. While I can prime it just fine, the issue is it's that millimeters difference. And I know I'm in America, so I should probably say inches or whatever, fractions of an inch, but it's like millimeters of a difference that makes this just a little awkward to prime. It's not like it makes it awful, but it makes it a little harder to use muscle memory to pull the bolt back at a very high rate of fire kind of speed. So that way it kind of creates more jamming issues with the gun. Now, when it comes to the gun jamming, usually the only time it jams is when it gets a bad dart, or if you do a half pull instead of full one. Now, the half pull is the most egregious mess to clear from the gun. This being a long-barreled Nerf gun, being roughly 6 to 8 inches of a barrel, it gets curled inside the barrel, and you have to use a ramrod to either push it into the chamber or push it from the chamber out the barrel in order to clear the jam. I've had so many times where I do this, and it's always my fault when that happens. It's not usually the gun itself, or it might even be the dart. But in those cases, it's kind of an issue. You need to make sure that you prime it fully, that you're doing it correctly, and you're not cutting it short and then pulling it forward, where it does catch, but it doesn't quite clear the chamber enough to fully envelop the dart correctly and make it fire correctly. Now, the little Maverick, it's got like, 3 pennies behind it. So it's a little more power. It's not much. Air restrictors, because it's in the cylinder, are removed. So it shoots a little bit better. You don't want to dry fire it. But hey, it works. And also, it does have the drop cylinder mod. So I can drop out the cylinder and take a secondary cylinder and put it in. It is quite handy at times when I'm not in the situation where I have time to reload and I just need to pop one in really quick. It's quite handy to use that. Now, the dropout cylinder, I basically just cut the holders that held in the cylinder to the body of the Maverick in order to have a easy slide out. Now, I haven't ever perfected how I put this thing in. I just know that the back has to make sure the back push pin is pushed in, and you have to hold down the button in order to drop it in. And you're good to go. Now, moving on to what I usually end up using with this for gear instead of just the gun itself. I usually end up using this Nerf Sling, which putting it on the gun itself is not very good. What I end up doing all the time is I usually loop it onto my belt, on one of the belt loops up here. I have the sling itself taped on my waist, so that way it's just the proper length to go around my body and fit my person very well. So that way it drops over my chest and puts it a little above knee height with the gun just at rest. And I'll usually mount the sling point on the center sling. The body of the Nerf gun does have a bit of a forward lean, which isn't the worst thing in the world. If it were really front heavy or really rear heavy, that'd be nicer because then I could have it flat across my body. But I usually just turn it over the other side, just put it across my chest, and it stays pretty well. This way I can hold the mag in front and keep it there while I pull out my secondary without having it flopping around or whacking into doorposts and getting me stuck. And whenever I have it dropped, usually I'll be using the secondary, which is a basic clear Maverick with the full dropout cylinder, not the dropout, the one that, comes out all the way. And air restrictors? No, this still has air restrictors. And looks like nothing behind the spring. This one had a stronger spring to begin with. It shot better than my other clear Maverick that I got, and many of my other Mavericks. So it just became my go-to secondary because it's good looking, it's unique, and it's worked very reliably. Over the years, the catch has worn down a few times, so I have had to sand it back into shape. That way it actually fires when I want it to instead of firing on its own. But this Maverick has done me a lot of service, and it's been a very great secondary for its entire lifetime. This goes in a duct tape holster on my right hip, where it has a 2-point setup. This is a relatively solid construction of just solely duct tape, with a carabiner to hold it in the front. This is just basically a cutout loop on both sides. You insert the carabiner through, and it's tight. On top, it is mounted to the belt, where it will stay on, and a 2-point setup, which holds relatively well. It has lasted many Nerf wars, and it is one of my favorites that I made so far. On the other side, you can see a closer look at the mag holder for the Frankenstein's Longshot with the drop cylinder and the 2 mags. Obviously, you can see how crude this is, but it works, it does its job, and we'll have to retire it at some point because it has fallen apart before and it has needed repairs. But that being said, it works relatively well, and it's nice to have. And then going around the back, I'll have usually a pouch for extra ammo, which probably isn't correctly mounted. Which is only half mounted. Whatever. Now my 2 favorite attachments would be the flashlight. The flashlight's good for HVZ and night combat, being that it is a regular LED flashlight mounted onto an end strike rail, which was actually from one of these recon iron sights. It works well, it does its job. You can always just screw off the back and put in a new battery pack in case the batteries are not, in case the light isn't very strong, which makes it nice and easy to work with. As for the ammo holder, it's relatively easy to hold ammo on here. It doesn't take much to push in the darts since it's a really light friction fit, but it does the job unless you have a worn down dart. So this will also work really well with the Frankenshot in combat. I have another Longshot that has one of these side mount rails, which also serves roughly the same purpose and does just as well. The extra dart storage on the back is actually uses a bit of craft foam, which is glued into the bottom of these dart holders. Simple enough, it makes any dart fit. It's not like it doesn't work now, so now I can hold ammo of any standard type, including the kinds that it was originally meant for the Firefly. This is usually a setup I end up running with if I use the Frankenshot. Now, I do have video footage from 3 different Nerf wars of me using this, and then I also have the recaps of those Nerf wars as well. This gun I've had a few good tag streaks with. My favorite one being a 6 to 7 tag streak, which I couldn't entirely confirm how many tags I got in the beginning of the February Nerf War Season 1. Season 2 will be coming out very soon, don't worry. I've had some good games of Infected where I end up having to pull out the mag and just use the Maverick part because I kept jamming it myself. And of course finding a few leak darts on occasion. But it's been a good gun, it's worked well. And it's not like I'm just going to put it on a shelf somewhere and let the paint stay nice and never have it used. It's got to be used, it's got to be loved, it's going to be fun that way. But all in all, the Frankenshot, or as its full name really is, the Frankenstein's Longshot, has been a very good weapon to use in the Nerf wars, as long as I'm using it properly and keeping elite darts out of it. I've gotten many good tag streaks, and I've survived a lot with it. And even before it was all painted and pretty, I've had plenty of Nerf wars I got to use it then too, when I was still building it and trying to tweak all the paint and the body work and all that. Okay, load it. Well, that being said, I hope you enjoyed the look at the Frankenshot, and I hope you enjoyed my Nerf War footage. You will get to see it. See ya.